let's start with introductions. Who are you? And then maybe go into your undergrad and North Central experience.
Yeah, so my name is Armana Ansari. Graduated from North Central in 2014. Um, Very much started on the clinical side. I definitely wanted to be a therapist when I entered North Central. That was my goal. And it was my senior year at North Central that I took an IO class with Dr. Kelly and really just opened my eyes to this new field that I really didn't consider at all. And so I had a lot of second thoughts my senior year about, is it too late to do IO? Is it something I want to do? I spent so much time like invested into clinical psych. So to be honest, I put IO a little bit on the back burner and then I focus on clinical. And so I decided not to go into grad school right away because of this kind of like, debate I was having internally. Wanted to like work in the clinical field for a little bit, see if it was something I truly wanted to do. Actually was a counselor for about 6 years in total. Did about 3 years after graduating from North Central. I worked as a counselor at different facilities. When I was like, I think IO is really what I wanted to do. And it was definitely a career move for me. So it was definitely challenging in that sense where I was like, really starting over a little bit from scratch in that sense, because I had such like a huge amount of experience in clinical. And so wanted to apply to grad school and wasn't really sure what to do, if this was the right move for me. And I ended up looking at a couple different grad programs. And really it was just more so like, what schools were out there, what would really help me kind of like, I didn't want to disregard this years of clinical experience that I had. I wanted to see how I could like kind of like blend it into like my IO kind of interest. Ended up choosing Roosevelt University here in Chicago. So I'm in Chicago. And I chose Roosevelt. They did have a dual degree program where you can, in 3 years, you get your master's in IO psychology as well as your MBA. So that was kind of the deciding factor for me because I felt like I was so clinical heavy that I was like, if I'm going to get into like corporate America a little bit, I kind of wanted a little bit of like business acumen as well. And so ended up choosing Roosevelt for that program. And really the teachers were wonderful. It was just such a nice like environment. Made a lot of lifelong friends in grad school, a lot of sleepless nights getting back into it. And so, it's a little bit of a challenge, I will say, since I did a career move. I wasn't able to find a lot of jobs that were like, even just like admin. I was trying to move out of the clinical side. So honestly, I still worked as a counselor while I was in grad school for IO. And so a lot of my, I felt like it challenged a lot of like different sides of me. Like I was trying to tie in a lot of like clinical, what can I do for like training and development and clinical psych to kind of like tie in projects for like my grad school experience. And I think people got tired of me hearing about this, but I was like, this is my interest. I like both sides, but I want to stick to like IO because I feel like that's where I can really grow and develop and like have more like input into it. I think clinical was very rewarding in a lot of ways, and I'm not bashing it at all. I still love it. I think it's just for my interest and growth, this is something I wanted to stick with. And I would say, if you're looking to go into grad school, like in IO, like definitely look at the programs, look at the teachers, what they're doing, because especially what they've studied, if that's an interest for you, that's a really like, that was a huge deciding factor for me. Like, if you want to get into training development, there's teachers who specialize in that and like, finding that right fit for you. So now I work actually as a recruiter. So definitely is like a different vibe from what I thought I would be doing, but at the same time, I still really love it. Through grad school, I was able to get an internship in talent acquisition, and I worked directly under the talent acquisition analyst at a market research company here in Chicago. And it was really my first step into not only like corporate America, but just like talent acquisition as a whole. It was very different from what I thought it would be. I never really thought about like HR technically as like a pursuit for me, but really under HR, you have talent acquisition, you have learning and development, you have all these different like buckets that you can really fall under and find the best fit for you. And with TA, it's not just recruiting, it's not just, finding the best fit. You really have a say in being like a subject matter expert, kind of working with hiring managers, finding the best fit, giving your insight into who is a good fit, what kind of skills are you looking for, that sort of thing. Doing a lot of job analysis, during my internship, I did work with the analysts, and we redid a lot of the job descriptions was one thing we did, so job analysis there. We created behavioral interview guides, and we ran a lot of training seminars on how to interview candidates. So hiring managers who were newer, how to get them to really be, unbiased in their interview process, really look at the base set of skills. Here are the like questions you can use that are like, looking truly at the skills and not just, a culture fit, because we're really moving out of that. And so it was really good experience in that sense, to get that experience and really be open into this different side of things of IO that I really didn't think about. I think truly when I came into IO, I was more interested in the L&OD side, like the learning and organizational development. So this really was just kind of presented to me as an opportunity. And I was like, okay, like I kind of like this too. For me, having that experience as a counselor, like I feel like I have learned patience. I know how to talk to people. I know how to like encourage people with different decisions. So I feel like I'm able to really tie in a lot of those base set of skills into this new position. And so when I, finished my internship, they wanted to keep me on the team. And so they offered me a full-time position as a recruiter, which was amazing because I will say, like, typically you start as like a recruiting coordinator, sourcer. Like it's a very like slow progression to get into like full-time recruiting. And so I was very grateful for like the opportunity. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Also, I was like, I'm ready for like a job now after an internship, realistically. And so it was really like starting from scratch, like really learning how to do like the processes. But it was amazing because to these hiring managers, you are the expert in recruiting. You're the expert in selection and like knowing the right fit and being able to be the, mediator between like the candidate and the manager. Like what's the best fits? What do you feel about this person? So it was a really cool experience. I just started a new job, still recruiting, but just at another company, and just relearning all the same sort of processes. But I do really enjoy recruiting. I think the end goal for me, or just at least the next step for me, is like definitely staying within IO, but like kind of incorporating IO within like an HR business partner role or HR manager, where you're not just doing like selection, but you're also doing a lot of the trainings, development, like employee relations sort of like conversations, like growth opportunities. I did a lot of that within my last role as a recruiter, where I was doing a lot of like growth development, like conversations with the current employees. What do you want to do in your future? What's your goal? And so that's something I really enjoyed. And so it's something that I'm kind of looking forward to doing. It's very like niche area, I feel like, within IO, but it's something that like I didn't think about, and I just really love it.
So what is the work-life balance like as a recruiter? Do you have a lot of time to do things that you want to do on your own, or is work very consuming of your time?
It really depends on the company, is what I'm realizing. I think at my last role, it was more so work than life balance. And that was a, deciding factor for me to go. But I think it really depends on the company that you find, finding that culture balance for yourself. For right now, within my current company, the current role that I have, I definitely have a work-life balance, which was like very crucial for me. I, feel like the normal stresses of work, kind of filling positions, having a good number of like positions to fill, working with managers in that sense, but definitely still have enough time to kind of now be out and about since things are open.
So there's a lot of different parts to HR and recruiting, like you said. Do you have a favorite? Is there something that you enjoy doing the most?
Oh, I definitely, even though this is a very small part of my job, like, and I haven't done it yet in this current role because I am new. I think I started like 3 months ago. But I definitely loved giving like training seminars out. So I would do like behavioral interview like trainings on how to like use our guides, how to use these, how to like interview properly, what to say, what not to say. And so I would do that frequently in my last role, for like big teams or small teams once they were like newer people who are going to interview soon. They kind of have a lot of processes in my current place in place, so they don't really need that. But it's something that I really wanted to see if can make an impact in, because I feel like that's just something I really like to do. I like to show people like what questions do you have. I like that a lot of like interpersonal communication.
And that makes a lot of sense with your clinical background.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely try to utilize a lot of those skills. I don't want them to go to waste.
definitely. So when was the switch? When did you realize clinical just, I can't, it's not for me anymore. I want to go into the business world. What was the switch? What was the deciding factor?
Oh gosh. It was about 2 or 3 years in, when I was working as a counselor. I just felt like it was very rewarding. It was very cool being a counselor. I really enjoyed it. And I just felt like this was not something I could do for maybe the next 20, 30 years. And I'm just trying to be realistic. I don't want to sound mean at all, but I was like, I don't know if this is like the emotional like investment that I'm making into this field. Like, I just don't know if this is really what I want to do. I kept thinking about IO and like an impact I can make in that field. And, I worked in a couple different facilities as a counselor. I worked at a residential, I worked at inpatient, I worked for juvenile probation. And it was just fascinating to me because at these different facilities I worked at, the amount of training that they provided, like one place would give you 3 days of training and throw you in. One place would give you 3 months of training and then throw you in. And like, no matter what, you never really felt super prepared for your job. And I just kind of like kept thinking back to like IO psych and like, training and development. It's like, how can I make an impact on training since I have this experience as a counselor? Like, could I be an accurate trainer? Like, can I do this? Like, it was just always in the back of my mind. And about like 2 or 3 years into being a counselor, I was like, is it too late? Maybe this is like, if I need to make a switch, now is the time to do it. And it was just really like having a lot of like moments where I was just really thinking about this. And so I remember, talking to my parents about it, my friends, and just, I think it was like, okay, if I need to make the switch, I think I need to go back to school for this because I can't just jump into it. I need to have some experience, and that will allow me the opportunity to get an internship, learn more about what I want to do. But yeah, it was about 2, 3 years in.
It's actually really helpful to hear that you were able to change your mind along the way and be successful in doing that. It's really encouraging for students, I think, who are a little apprehensive about what they
Yeah.
want to do and unsure. So, do you have any advice for our IO students? Any grad school advice? Any advice for pursuing IO careers or in general?
Oh gosh. I definitely feel like, if it's in the back of your mind, you're thinking about this, you know, maybe there's something on you that needs to act on it. I know, my parents were very adamant that I immediately went to grad school after, undergrad. And I was very hesitant to do that because I had this like secondary guess of like, is this really what I want to do? I think getting that work experience in really showed me what I wanted to do. And I think getting into the field and being hands-on, that was very helpful for me to be like, is this something I want to do for the rest of my life? And like realizing that like, yes, starting over from scratch, like being an intern at like 27 or, it's a little bit of a challenge, but like it's not impossible. And you're not the only one doing this. And like in the end, you're going to end up you're going to do what you want to do. And you don't want to like invest, years of your life into something if you're not going to be happy doing it. So I hope that helps.
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you so much. Your story is really encouraging. And I hope that our students benefit from this as much as I did. So thank you.
Of course. I'm glad I could help and thank you so much.